All right, so I'm going to upload two different videos for this week's Programming Assignment 2, which is located in Elms. This first video is just going to talk through the logic of how we construct our code. So I've talked about this a little bit, but essentially anytime you start a new coding project, it's really important that you take time to figure out what exactly you need to do. So I've tried to do that a little bit by giving you a breakdown of steps of what needs to be done for that particular program, but I'm going to show you how I set up my code so that hopefully it helps you to better set up your code for success. And the other thing that this does, setting up our code this way, starting with our comments, is it helps us to figure out what's actually not working, right? So when we get to the debugging stage, we can easily determine where the error is in our code so we can efficiently debug our program. Okay, so program 2 is supposed to determine the current month and day. It is supposed to read our user's input regarding a special day of their choosing. It's going to determine how many days are left until that special date. And it is going to allow the user to click a button, and a function will run when that button is clicked, and it will print a message on the web page that tells the user how many days are left until that day. Okay, so I have uploaded this new commented version if you want it. So you have my structure set up, and I'm just going to talk through it so we have a better understanding. So first thing we're going to do is save our code, and we are going to view it in our browser preview. Oops. Okay. Preview it. Oh, I gotta expand this. And we get this cool holiday countdown. If you don't like the red color, you want to make it look nicer, you can do it up here in the style tag. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add a button. And that button is going to say how many days. Save it. Ooh, let's go ahead and add that under the break. All right, now we've got it on this nice new line. Awesome. Okay, so there's a couple things that I need to do. Okay, the user is going to input a month, and they're going to input a day. And from that, I need to be able to calculate how many days are left until that day. All right, so the way that I sort of plan this out, and you can do it a lot of different ways, is I write out in my code, in comments, what I need to do, okay? So the first thing, and this came directly from this assignment, is we are going to use some sort of function that executes on the button click. So I know that in this button area, I'm going to need to add an on click and call my function. Okay, so first thing I'll do is create a function. Then I need to create a new date object for today. So we need to figure out what day it is. Then I'm going to set a variable for your month that pulls from the form. And if you remember from the earlier programming assignment in this module, our months start at 0. So whatever the user typed into your month, we're going to subtract 1 from that because January starts at 0 for our current date that we've created for today. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called your month, and I'm also going to create a variable called your day that's going to pull from the form. And then I'm going to create a new date that uses your month and your day. I've added this other comment here because we don't know off the top of our head what year they're referring to. So we need to use an if-else statement, which we did a little bit in the last module. We need to use an if-else statement in order to determine whether their new date object, their special day date object, should have the year 2020 or if it should have the year 2021. So we need to figure out, has this date already happened for 2020 or has it not? And if it hasn't happened, our date is going to be 2020, and if it has happened, it'll be 2021. Okay, so I'm going to use an if-else statement, and then I'm going to set a variable called your year, and then finally set a new date object using your month, your day, and your year. All right, so all of these comments help me to set up a new date object for the user's special date. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create a variable that consists of 1 day in milliseconds. And the reason we're doing this is because we have the ability to pull the time in milliseconds of any date object. So it will convert all of the days, all the times, all of the months into one integer that is the value of the time in milliseconds. Okay? So we're going to create a variable that consists of 1 day. So we're going to do that by doing some math in milliseconds. And then we're also going to calculate the number of days. So we've got our constant, our variable called 1 day. And then once we have that, we're going to calculate the number of days by getting the time for their day and subtracting that time for today. So we're going to subtract their day from today, and then we are going to divide whatever that time is, and it's going to give us an answer in milliseconds, by 1 day in milliseconds. Okay, so this 1 day that we've calculated here. And then finally, we're going to print that answer to the page. Now, what I know is that this calculation could give me 0, it could give me a positive number, or it could give me a negative number. It'll give me a negative number if the day is occurring in 2021. It will give me a positive number if the day has not occurred yet in 2020, and it will give me a 0 if the day is today. So if somebody put in 4/8, for example, into this calculator, the answer that this would give me would be 0. So I need to, in order to print the right number from the page, I need to use an if-else structure, just like before, so that we can print out a positive number no matter what variable we've input. All right, so this is just the logic of the function. I write all of this out before I ever start coding, okay? And the reason that I do that is because it allows me to think through the problem and to break my code down into sub-problems, right? So just like we were talking about before, a lot of times functions are really helpful because they increase modularity of your code, and they allow you to break down the problem into sub-problems. So we are doing just that. All right, go ahead and stop this video. Make sure that you have either added these comments to your own code or opened this particular file that commented holiday countdown timer, and then you can pick back up at our next video in order to actually write the code for this project.